my dear learners, for this course on design of machine elements 1. In our module 3, we were discussing about design of shafts, keys and couplings. So far we have solved 6 numerical problems on design of shafts. Let us continue our discussion on numerical problems of design of shafts and conclude our discussion on shafts in today's lecture. We are solving the problems for the question bank which I have attached through the link given below this video in the description. Kindly use that link to get access to the question bank. For that question bank we are discussing the solution in this lecture series. Moving for the final problem of our discussion on design of shafts, that is problem number 7 of our discussion, states that a steel shaft C45 transmitting 15 kilowatts at 210 rpm is supported between two bearings 1000 mm apart. On this, two spur gears are mounted. The gear having 80 teeth of module 6 is located 100 mm to the left of the right bearing and receives power from a driving gear such that the tangential force acts vertical. The pinion having 24 teeth and 6 mm module located 200 mm to the right of the left bearing and delivers power to the gear mounted behind it. Taking combined shock and fatigue factors 1.75 in bending and 1.25 in torsion, determining the diameter of the shaft. In order to clearly understand this problem, I should note down the data and also draw the space diagram, which is very important. Let me draw the space diagram first. And also, he has not specified the direction of view and rotation. As I said, if the direction of view and rotations are not specified, let us always assume left side view with prime mover rotating clockwise. If shaft receives power with the help of belt drive, then shaft rotates in clockwise direction. If shaft receives power with the help of gear, then shaft rotates in counterclockwise direction. Here it is receiving power with the help of gear, so therefore for us the assumption will become left side view with counterclockwise rotation of shaft. So if I take left side view, I can list out data here. That is, let us assume left side view with prime mover rotating clockwise. So prime mover is the source which is supplying power to the shaft. Since shaft is receiving power help of gear drive, therefore shaft rotates counterclockwise. Because due to external meshing, pinion rotates clockwise, hence shaft rotates counterclockwise. So for us, left side view counterclockwise is the condition. So this is our assumption. There is no hard and fast rule that you should always assume this condition. In order to follow a standard procedure or convention, I am using always left side view with clockwise rotation of prime mover based on the receiving of power to the shaft will affect the shaft direction of rotation or sense of rotation. You can also assume right side view and solve. For that case also you will get the same answer. Let us continue. We have a steel shaft of C45. So it is given steel shaft, he has given the material, he has not given the yield stress. We should take out from the data and book. Transmitting a power of 15 kilowatts, 210 rpm. It is supported between the bearings. Will come in the space diagram. Two spur gears are mounted. The gears having, let us take Z1 as 80 teeth, and he has given module for first gear as 6 mm. It is located to the left of the right hand bearing and receives power. So therefore this is driven. Actually this is gear, not pinion, because this is receiving the power. Such that the tangential force Ft acts vertical. Either it can act vertically upward or downward, which should be known to us once I draw the space diagram. There is a pinion which is giving out power, having teeth as 24 with a module as 6 mm. Location should be marked in the space diagram. Delivers the power. Take the combined shock and fatigue factors as 1.75 and 1.25. In torsion, and determine the diameter of the shaft. That is, Cm is 1.75 and Ct is 1.25. So this is the data given for us. Now if I draw the space diagram, we have a bearing on which we have two gears. So this bearing is of a length 1000 millimeters given. On these two spur are mounted. The gear having 80 teeth of module 6 mm is located 100 mm to the left of the right bearing. So this is the right hand bearing. To the left, 100 mm to the left. So the distance of 100 mm, we have this one. This distance is given as 100. All dimensions are in millimeters. This is receiving power, so therefore this is driven gear, such that the tangential force should act vertical. The pinion having 24 teeth and 6 mm module located 200 mm to the right of left hand bearing. At a distance of 200 mm, we have pinion driver, which is giving out power right of it and delivers power to the gear mounted behind it. So it is delivering power for behind it. Behind. So this is the data given. Let us solve this problem. Now we have assumed that we are viewing it as left side view. The shaft is rotating in counterclockwise direction. So in order to mark it properly, let us determine the diameter and observe which gear is visible and which gear is invisible. Coming for driven, Z1 is 80 and M1 is 6. So therefore we know that D is equal to module into number of teeth. So this already you know in gears that we have studied in theories of machines, where module is defined as the ratio of pitch circle diameter to number of teeth. So we know both. So therefore, if I mark it, I will get it as point A, B, C and D. This is pinion or driver. So therefore, this will become diameter of C. Diameter of C is module is 6 and number of teeth is 80. So diameter of gear C will be 6 into 80, which is 480 millimeters. Similarly, if I calculate for diameter of pinion, that is B, we have module 6, whereas number of teeth is 24. So therefore, diameter of pinion is 6 into 24, which is 144 millimeters. So this is 144 and this is 480. So therefore both are visible for us. So hence we have two gears. We have a shaft, smaller one. So this is gear and this is pinion. Now he states that Ft acts vertical for gear. We already know that FT can act vertical only if the gear receives or transmits power horizontally, that is in front or behind. If it receives or transmits power vertically above or below, then FT acts on the horizontal plane. But here he is stating that FT acts vertical, so therefore there should be a contact horizontally. So horizontal contact from a side view. So from a left side, if I view, there should be a horizontal contact. Either this can be gear and this can be pinion, or calculator can be gear and this can be pinion. So then only we have the vertical action of FT when I view from left side. So therefore, I should assume either this is receiving power from another gear behind it or in front of it. Then only I will get FT acting vertical. But here he has already stated that it is delivering power to another gear located behind it. That is, pinion is delivering power to the another gear located behind it. So therefore, I will take for driven gear, it is receiving from another pinion in front of it. So it is receiving power through a gear. From the shaft, it is transmitting to pinion. Pinion is giving out power behind it. So this is somewhat like this, I will assume. So we have a shaft on which we have a gear. So this gear is receiving power from another gear present in front of it. And we have pinion located here. It is giving out power to the another gear located behind it. So we will assume like this. We can also assume such that both the gear as well as pinion are receiving and giving out power horizontally behind, and so that also makes no difference. For the moment, let me assume that the gear is receiving from another gear horizontally present in front of it. So thereby there is an horizontal contact in front of it and FT will act vertical. So this is the gear I am assuming in front of it there is a pinion from which it is receiving the power. So therefore this is the gear, this is the assumed pinion. So if I plot it onto the right profile plane, I will get the point of contact here. Whereas we have a pinion, it is giving out power to another gear located behind. So project it onto the right profile plane and rotate it, I will get point of contact here for pinion. Hope the concept is clear. So this is based on the assumption that considering gear C, assuming gear C is receiving power from pinion present in front of the observer or in front of the gear. Both are same. In front of the observer or in front of the gear. So in front of the observer we have a pinion, or in front of the gear we have a pinion. So it is giving the power to the gear from which the shaft is driven. So we have detected that shaft rotates counterclockwise. So mark it, shaft rotates counterclockwise. Now we know that for pinion I should mark FT opposite to the direction of rotation. So this will be FT for pinion. For gear it should be along the direction of rotation. So this will be FT for gear. Since point of contact are opposite, I am getting FT in same direction. This is contacting behind and imaginary gear. Given where this is contacting in front, which is our assumption. Now let us solve this problem. Since the shaft is receiving power from gear C, first I should analyze for gear C. So analyzing for gear C, we have three equations. Using first equation, that is Mt is equal to 9.55 into 10 to the power of 6 into P by N. We have Mt is equal to 9.55 into 10 to the power of 6 into power is 15 kilowatts at a speed of 210 rpm. So therefore Mt for the problem will be 9.55 into 10 to the power of 6 into power is 15 kilowatts at a speed of 210 rpm, which is turning out to be 682142.86 millimeters. Using the second equation, that is Mt is equal to Ft into radius of gear C, we will get Ft as Mt divided by radius of gear C is 480 by 2, which is 240, which is equal to 2842.26 newtons. Now use the third equation, that is Fr is equal to Ft tan phi. Whenever the pressure angle is not given, always assume phi as 20 degrees. So therefore I will get Fr as 2842.26 into tan 20. So the answer is 1034.5. So this completes the forces for gear C. For gear C, the Fr should act inward. For pinion, it will act inward. This is Fr of pinion, this is Fr of gear. So if I draw the free body diagram of gear C, we have gear C which is rotating in counterclockwise direction, where we have the shaft to be designed. This is gear C, which is driven in front of it. So therefore this is our assumption. So this is the point of contact for gear. I should mark Ft in the same direction as sense of rotation. So mark Ft, and we have Fr acting inward. Similarly, if I solve for pinion, we have pinion B, which is giving out power horizontally behind, like this. So this is the shaft to be mounted. Since it is rotating counterclockwise at point of contact, I should show Ft in the opposite to the sense of rotation. So this will also become vertically upwards, and Fr will become inwards. So this will give us the left side view free body diagram. Free body diagram of both gear and pinion in left side view. So total horizontal force from gear C is just FR, which is 1034.5. Coming for the direction, if you observe for gear, FR is acting towards the observer, so therefore I will mark it vertically upwards in the horizontal load diagram. Total vertical force is just Ft, which is equal to 2842.3, which acts vertically upwards in the vertical load diagram. So this completes for gear C calculation. Moving for pinion, considering pinion B, we have three equations. In that, first equation is not required because MT remains same. We are receiving the power from one gear and we are giving out the power from another gear. So therefore torque remains same. We are not giving out torque in two different gears or gear and pulley. We have one gear to receive, another gear to give out. So torque remains same. Move for second directly, that is MT is equal to FTB RB. We get tangential force of pinion is equal to 682142.86 by radius of pinion is 144 by 2, which is 72. So therefore I will get the answer as 9474.2 newtons. Now coming for FRB, the formula is FTB into tan phi. Ft of pinion is known 9474.2. Assume always the pressure angle as 20 degree if not given. So therefore FRB will be 3448.3 newtons. So this completes the tangential and radial forces of both gear and pinion. Now coming for total horizontal force. From pinion we don't have any other force other than radial force, which is equal to 3448.3 newtons. Coming for pinion, FR is acting away from the observer, so therefore I should mark it as vertically downwards in horizontal load diagram. That is from the left side view. Total vertical force is just FTB, which is equal to 9474 newtons. This acts vertically upwards as per our assumption. Now accordingly, if I transfer the loads, I will get, first let us consider the horizontal load diagram HLD. Let me use different chalk. From pinion B, the horizontal force is vertically downwards, whose magnitude is 3448.3. Whereas from gear C, the horizontal force, total horizontal force FR is 1034.5 vertically upwards. We will take the support reactions as RA horizontal and RD horizontal. These are point B and C. Now if I consider vertical load diagram, that is VLD, we have both the forces of pinion and gear are acting vertically upwards. So therefore the reactions should be obviously vertically downwards. RA vertical and RD vertical. This is because of the reason from both the gears we have forces acting vertically upwards. This is our initial guess. Once we solve for moments, we'll come to know the directions of these forces. As of now, we are getting like this 2842.3 from gear C, whereas from pinion it is 9474.2. So this completes the horizontal and vertical load diagram. Let me pause this video for a while so that people can copy it down. Later we will solve horizontal and vertical bending moments. Now moving ahead for horizontal and vertical bending moments. First, let us consider the horizontal bending moment. If we take summation of force on the horizontal load diagram as 0, I will get RA horizontal plus RD horizontal plus 1034.5 is equal to 3448.3 newtons, and moment about right support as 0, I will get RAH into distance is 1000 minus 3448.3 into distance is 800 plus 1034.5 into distance is 100 is equal to 0. So therefore I get RA horizontal as 2655. So resubstituting in this equation, I will get RD horizontal as minus 241.2 newtons. So therefore our initial assumption is wrong. RDH should act vertically downwards. So change the direction of RDH. Since I am getting it as negative, so this is the correct direction. Now for calculation of moments, take only the magnitude and the sense of rotation. Don't take these signs of the loads. You know that moment about point A horizontal is 0, beginning point. Next moment about B horizontal will be RAH into distance. RAH is 2655 into distance is 200. Clockwise moment, hence it is positive. 2655 into 200 is 531 000 Newton millimeters. Moment about C horizontal will be RA is causing clockwise moment. 2655 into distance is 900 minus counterclockwise moment 3448 into the distance is 700. So MC horizontal will be turning out to be minus 24100 Newton millimeters whereas the end RDH must be 0 if you solve. Next, moving for vertical bending moments. First I should take summation of forces on vertical load diagram as 0, with which I will get RA vertical plus RD vertical is equal to 9474 plus 2842. Taking moment about right support, that is moment about D vertical, I will get RA vertical into 1000 as counterclockwise moment, minus clockwise is 9474 into 800. Again we are clockwise 2842 into 100. So therefore I will get RA vertical as minus of alpha x into 1000 plus of 9474 into 800 plus of 2842 into 100. RA vertical is 7863.4 newtons. So therefore RD vertical will be 9474 plus 2842 minus answer 4452.6. Now if I calculate the moments, moment about A vertical is 0, moment about D vertical is RA vertical is causing counterclockwise moment, so therefore minus 7863 into distance is 200, which yields us the value as minus 7863 into 200 is minus 1572 600 Newton millimeters. Moment about C vertical will be minus 7863 into distance is 900 from point C to A plus clockwise movement 9474 into distance is 700. So MC vertical will be minus of 7863 into 900 plus 9474 into 700, which is equal to minus 444,900. Moment about the end point is always 0, so therefore MdV should be nearly equal to 0. Now finally I can calculate the resultant bending moment as MR is equal to square root of mh square plus mv square. MA is 0, find out MB, MC, MD is also 0. Calculating for MB, square root of 531,000 square plus 157,2600 square is equal to 1659829 Newton millimeters. Coming for C, it is root of 241,000 square plus 444,900 square which is 44552. So if I compare, the maximum bending moment is at point B. So this is what I require. Now I know maximum torque, I know maximum bending moment, I can find the diameter of the shaft required. Let me transfer this to the diagram. Drawing first the horizontal bending moment diagram. At A it is 0, at B it is 531,000, at C it is 241,000 and 0. Coming for vertical bending moments, both are negative. At A we have 1572600. At C we have 44900. Then we have C. This is vertical bending moment diagram. Finally we have resultant bending moment diagram. If I draw resultant bending moment diagram, at A it is 0, at B it is very high 1659829, at C it is less. The variations are linear. Then connect it to 0. Using different colors, if I join, you get the answers as at B it is 53,100,000, 241,000. Here we have vertical bending moment 1572600. Triple 4900. Coming for the resultant, the value what I require is 1659829 and 44552. So marking of the points, we have A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, and finally A, B. So let me pause this video for a while so that you people can copy it down. Later we'll solve for diameter. Now moving ahead to find the diameter, we don't know both tau level and sigma level, but he has specified the material as C45 steel. So using that, we can find the materials, that is from appendix 1 of our design data handbook, page number 464, for C45 steel. We have sigma yield as 353 megapascals. Now I can calculate both tau yield, tau allowable and sigma allowable as from ASME standards. tau max is 0.3 times sigma yield. So therefore 0.3 into sigma yield is 353, which yields as the value as 105.9. Considering keyway effect, %of strength is lost, so therefore tau arrival will become 75% of tau max into 0.75, which is nothing but 79.4 megapascals. So I should solve for 79.4 megapascals in maximum shear stress theory. So similarly, if I find for sigma level, we have sigma max is equal to 0.6 sigma yield. So 0.6 sigma yield is 353 from data handbook. I get the value as 211.8 megapascals. Considering the keyway effects, if we consider keyway effects, 75% of strength is lost, so therefore sigma level is 25% of strength is lost, so therefore sigma level is 75% of sigma max, that is into 0.75, which is turning out to be 158.84. Now we know the value of Cm and Ct. For solid shaft, K is equal to 0, that is di by d naught. And one more important note, if he has given the factor of safety, directly sigma level is equal to sigma yield by factor of safety, tau level is equal to tau yield by 2 times factor of safety. That also we could have been done, but he has not specified the factor of safety. Now we know both sigma level and tau level, therefore I can find the value of diameter. Now coming for the diameter from maximum shear stress theory, we know that diameter d is equal to 16 by pi times tau level into square root of Cm md square plus Ct md square into 1 by 1 minus k to the power of 4 whole to the power of 1/3. So if I solve, I'll get the answer as 16 by pi into tau level is 79.4 into root of Cm is 1.75 into md is 1659829. Ct is 1.25 into mt is 682143 whole square to the power of 1/3. So diameter is 57.907, nearly equal to 60 mm. Let us check from maximum normal stress theory. We have diameter d is equal to 16 by pi sigma level into Cm mb plus root of Cm mb square plus Ct mb square into 1 by 1 minus k to the power of 4 whole to the power of 1/3. So therefore the diameter will become 16 by pi into sigma level is 158.85 into 1.75 into mb is 165 9829 1.75 into 168, sorry, 165 9829 square plus 1.25 into 682143 square to the power of 1/3, 57.507, which is nearly equal to 60 mm. So therefore adopt the size of shaft as 60 mm for this problem. So this is the solution for the given problem. This completes our discussion on design of shafts. Of course it is very lengthy but worth learning. And coming for very important points to be remembered are, if the direction of view and sense of rotation are specified, then the problem is much simpler. Directly you can start the problem. For pulley we have three equations. Mt is equal to 9.55 10 to the power of 6 into P by N. Second equation is Mt is equal to T1 minus T2 into radius of the pulley. Third equation is ratios of belt tension. T1 by T2 is equal to E power mu theta. You should use these three equations, find the forces, then find the bending moment, then find the diameter. If you have gear, again for gear you have three equations. Mt is equal to 9.55 into 10 to the power of 6 into P by N. Second equation is Mt is equal to Ft into radius of the gear. Third equation is Fr is equal to Ft tan phi. Find the forces, find the bending moment, find the diameter. If the sense of rotation and direction of view is not given, that is direction of side view is not given, always you follow left side view with prime mover rotating clockwise. If shaft is receiving power from belt, then shaft rotates clockwise with left side view. If belt shaft is receiving power with the help of gear, then left side view shaft rotating counterclockwise. So this is the assumption you can make and solve. There is no hard and fast rule that you should always make the direction of view as left side view and take what I said as prime mover always rotates clockwise. You can assume as per your convention. If you do so, you will get the bending moment according to your assumption, but you should follow the correct procedure. That is, in the horizontal load diagram, forces acting towards the observer is marked as vertically upward. Forces acting away from the observer are marked vertically downward. Accordingly, if you correctly solve according to your convention, you will get the bending moment diagram, but the final diameter will be definitely the same. You can try the same problem by taking right side view with different sense of rotation. Follow the procedure and check whether you will get the same answer or not. Kindly comment your results below the video. This completes our discussion on design of shafts. From next lecture, we will be heading to discuss design of keys and couplings. That's all from this lecture. Thank you all.